You're listening to Night Dreams Radio with Gary Anderson.
Hey, that is me. Oh, how's everybody doing on this Friday? Here in Gig Harbor, Washington, we're getting hit with a lot of snow, and it's sticking, and it sucks. Hey, on the fake news today, which I don't believe it's really true, but it says Citigroup is going to refund $330 million to its credit card customers. I bet when you get your little claim, it'll be like about $5 or less. What can I say? But that's something anyway. Yeah, they overcharged 330 million clams to their customers. That's Citigroup. So, hey, you might want to look at another bank. I don't know, but it seems like all the banks it's happening too. Hey, we're going to also have a great show here for the next hour tonight. And I'm going to bring on the guest, so I hope he's there. So, hey, Don, are you there? Okay. Don, are you there? Don, are you there? I guess not. So, hey, we'll play a little music again here till we figure out what's going on here.
Yeah, I was hearing something really distant that I couldn't make out for a while there, but yeah, I hear you fine now. Yep, just fine.
Okay, we got Don on the line. Are you there, Don?
Yes, I am.
Well, how's your evening going?
Pretty good so far. Got to spend the evening with my son and grandson visiting my wife and I.
Okay, that sounds totally exciting. How's the weather in your direction?
It's been wet, very wet, but at least it's not snow and it's not ice.
What's the temperature like, out of curiosity?
Oh, it's maybe 40. It's really warmed up.
Okay.
For us, that's almost a heat wave.
Well, here it'd be a heat wave. We've been averaging about 17, 16 degrees at night, and we hit around 20-something today. So, I mean, that's kind of a heat wave here for right this time of year. But this, we normally don't get snow. I mean, if we get snow, it's like, maybe a half inch or inch, and it's gone by later in the day. This time it's been going on for a couple of days. Hey, Don, why don't you tell everybody what you do and your books and all that stuff, and then we'll get into it.
Okay. Well, I'm a journalist by trade, a longtime daily newspaper editor. I'm semi-retired from that. I still do some special sections, mentoring, and still write a weekly column, but I also am a book author and publisher. My latest book is I Met a Ghost at Ghettysburg, a journalist's journey into the paranormal.
Okay, yeah, I was reading you did not believe in the paranormal at one point.
No, this was definitely not a subject I sought out. It definitely sought me out.
Well, that's usually how it goes, I mean, a lot of people I've talked to, they said they didn't believe in the paranormal, but then, guess what? Something happened, and it changed their whole mind.
And with me, it was many things, repeated things happening at the house that my wife and I are restoring, and it definitely convinced me there are things we do not fully understand.
Oh, yeah. So what type of things were happening?
For a while, since we've moved into the house, things have quieted down, but not totally. But, we would hear very plain footsteps when nobody was there. You would hear doors opening and closing. A lot with electronics, particularly radios, would come on, go off by themselves, change stations. At some time it would be daily occurrences, things coming up missing, showing up in odd places.
That would be kind of eerie.
It was for me. I was kind of questioning my sanity for a little bit until I had other people kind of corroborate on things.
Wow. I can say, I mentioned this before on the show that I managed a business for many years downtown Tacoma, which was originally a hotel, which actually was a brothel in the basement. There used to be a speakeasy and a bar before that. And a few people actually got killed. A couple of the prostitutes, a few of the years, got killed there. And I would send up our storage for the business, and all our spare stock was in the basement. And I would send employees down there, and they would come up, and this is like on a 13, 14, 16-year run. All different employees would come up and say, hey, this place is haunted. They saw ghosts. They saw all this weird stuff. So I know what you're talking about.
And it does get your attention.
Yeah, till it happened to me, I actually thought a lot of these people were crackpots. And, one of them was a former Navy SEAL, and I had an ex-Ranger, and another guy who was a chief bosun mate on, nuclear submarines. And, they were all different years. They were, employed there, and, they didn't know each other, and they were all coming up and saying the same thing. And one day I was in the basement, and, well, it's actually two times. One time I smelled lilac really strong. But the one time I was there by myself, and somebody tapped me on my shoulder too. It actually hurt. I was really upset. I turned around because I was going to confront the person that did it, and there was absolutely nobody there.
Yes, I've been touched in our house. I've had my ear flipped. I've been touched on the hand. Other people have been touched. When workers, construction workers at the house started reporting things, I realized, okay, I'm not the only one here.
Yeah, especially with, tools and stuff, being misplaced and moved around, and electronics coming on and off and stuff like that, and footsteps. I mean, the building I was in, honestly, Don, I'd be there sometimes late at night doing paperwork, and it was a camera business. So I also was a technician besides the general manager of the 3 stores. So all the repairs that the other technicians couldn't repair, I was the one that had to repair it. And I'd be down there at midnight. And, we had a staircase that went upstairs to the offices. And, in the middle of the night, 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, I'd hear footsteps and muffled talking. I'd run out there thinking, gee, it had to be one of the owners, and guess what? It was nobody there, and the door was still dead-bolted from the inside. So, I mean, that when that happened the last time, I said, no more. We close at 6, I'm out at 6.
Yeah, I've been kind of lucky. I've never really felt a bad vibe here or been frightened by the occurrences, but it can be kind of fascinating. Maybe you'll be laying in bed and hear a muffled conversation, going on the next bedroom over, things like that.
Well, I take it, are you married?
Yes, I am.
And how did your wife take it?
Luckily, she's kind of fearless. She's much like me. We've been curious as much as anything, and sometimes you just have to laugh. One time we're out working outside the house, we had a radio playing. It was on a classic rock station. It kept changing by itself to a Bowling Green State University men's basketball game.
Somebody was in sports.
And I'm a University of Toledo graduate. Bowling Green's our rival. We weren't finding humor in it, but it didn't matter what station we would change it to. It would go back to the basketball game. We probably tried changing it a dozen times. We finally gave up and listened to the BGSU men's basketball game, and all we could do is laugh. I mean, what can you do?
Well, you'd be frustrated, number one, but, I've heard things like that, or people would be making recordings, and all of a sudden they have voices in the recordings. Like last night, we were, we broadcast live, but we go through the internet. And in all these months doing the show, I think 4 months now, I never had anything weird happen. Last night with the guests we were having, every so often we would have garbled music coming through or talking coming through last night. And it was nothing here. I mean, when I went off the air, I checked everything. There was nothing here we could be doing that, and especially what we were getting. So unless somebody's running a pirate radio station down the street, it was bizarre.
Yeah, I had an occurrence here, and actually one of the more active parts of the house is where my home office is, where I am now. I was doing a radio interview over Skype once, and it was like something was playing with the settings. The sound was going up and down, would be cutting off altogether. We would lose the connections. I'd had no problem at my end before or after the broadcast, and the same with the host. He had no problems before or after. It was very strange.
Oh, wow. So how old is this house?
It was the old part, which I'm in now, is built in 1835.
Oh, wow. That's old. I don't mean it in a sarcastic way. I mean, that's old enough.
That's the appeal of it, and much of it is just unchanged. The basement of the house is actually the original kitchen, and it's not been changed from day one.
Well, you know what? When you get Don, when you get a house that old too, I mean, it was a normal thing when somebody passed on in the family. You know, they would put them in the parlor or the living room or whatever you want to call it in their coffin for the family. To give their respects. And have you ever checked if any of that went on?
Yeah, we've looked into the history of the house, and yes, the original owner, the man who had it built, I'm sure died in the house. I wouldn't be surprised if a dozen different people have died in the house. Has quite an interesting history. 4 Civil War soldiers, Union soldiers, grew up here. 2 of them did not make it home from the war.
Well, that could be it. I mean, some of them might be, trying to be back home, and then you have the people that maybe died there. That's what always. Go ahead.
Yeah, there seem to be different spirits, entities, however you'd like to describe them. A frequent one is someone with very heavy leather-soled boots. I do living history. I'm into Civil War history. Very distinct, heavy-set person with leather boots. And I actually had this footsteps come right through the room where I'm sitting, and a shadow was cast on the wall as the steps went by me.
Now, that is scary, I